My brother secretly took a loan in my name, and now I'm the one paying the price. I've always trusted my brother. Growing up, we were inseparable, and even as adults, I thought we had each other's backs. That's why when I started getting calls from a loan company about a debt I didn't recognize, I was confused. At first, I thought it was a mistake, maybe even a scam. But the more I dug into it, the more horrifying the truth became. My brother had taken out a loan in my name, and now I was left to clean up the mess. It started with a phone call on a random Tuesday afternoon. I was at work, buried in emails, when my phone buzzed. The number wasn't saved in my contacts, but it was local, so I answered. "Hello, this is loan company name," the voice on the other end said. "We're calling to discuss the overdue payments on your personal loan." I froze. "I think you have the wrong number," I said, already feeling uneasy. "I didn't take out a loan." The person paused, then confirmed my full name, address, and even the last 4 digits of my social security number. My stomach dropped. "I didn't take out any loan," I repeated, my voice shaking now. "This has to be a mistake." "We can send you a copy of the loan documents," they offered. "But as of now, the balance is overdue, and it's affecting your credit score." I hung up in a daze, my mind racing. I hadn't applied for any loans, I was sure of it. But how did they have my information? And why was this debt showing up under my name? That night, I pulled up my credit report online, and there it was. A $20,000 personal loan I'd never taken out. I felt sick. Who could have done this? How did this happen? The next day, I called the loan company back and asked for the documents they had on file. They emailed me scanned copies of the loan application and contract. When I opened the file, my heart sank. The handwriting on the application was eerily familiar, and the signature at the bottom, while a sloppy attempt to mimic mine, wasn't quite right. I stared at it, disbelief washing over me. It looked like someone had forged my name. I scrolled through the application, looking for more clues. That's when I saw the listed email address and phone number. They weren't mine, but I recognized them. They belonged to my brother. At first, I didn't want to believe it. My brother Adam wasn't perfect, but we were family. Why would he do something like this? Then I started piecing things together. Adam had been complaining about money problems for months. His car needed repairs, he was behind on rent, and his job wasn't paying enough. But could he really have stooped this low? I decided to confront him. That evening I drove to his apartment, my mind racing with a mix of anger and disbelief. When he opened the door, he looked surprised to see me. "Hey," he said casually. "What's up?" I didn't waste any time. "Adam, did you take out a loan in my name?" His face went pale, and for a split second I saw the guilt in his eyes before he tried to cover it up. "What? No. Why would you even think that?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the documents. "This is your email, your phone number. Don't lie to me." Adam stared at the screen, his face a mix of the panic and shame. He opened his mouth to deny it again, but the words didn't come out. Instead, he sank onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. "Okay," he muttered. "I screwed up." I felt my blood boil. "You screwed up? Adam, you stole my identity. Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" He looked up, his eyes pleading. "I didn't know what else to do. I was drowning. My name. My landlord was threatening to evict me. My car broke down, and I couldn't keep up with everything. I figured I'd take the loan, get back on my feet, and pay it off before you ever found out." "Before I found out?" I repeated, incredulous. "You're $20,000 in debt, and you thought I wouldn't notice?" "I was desperate," he said, his voice cracking. "I swear I was going to fix it. I needed time." His words didn't make me feel any better. I'd always been there for Adam, helping him out when he needed it, giving him advice, even lending him money on occasion. But this was beyond anything I could have imagined. "You didn't even ask me," I said, my voice trembling. "You just decided to put me in this position without thinking about the consequences." He didn't have an answer. He just sat there, looking like a scolded child, but his silence spoke volumes. I left Adam's apartment that night without saying much else. My anger was overwhelming, but underneath it was a crushing sense of betrayal. This wasn't some minor mistake. It was fraud. And now I was the one stuck dealing with the fallout. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and paperwork. I contacted the loan company, explaining the situation and filing a formal dispute. I also had to freeze my credit and file a police report to document the identity theft. The process was exhausting, both mentally and emotionally. Every time I explained the story, it felt like reopening the wound. Meanwhile, Adam kept trying to reach out, texting and calling nonstop. His messages ranged from apologies to excuses. "I didn't think it would blow up like this," one text read. "I thought I could handle it." Handle it? He couldn't even handle his own life, let alone a $20,000 loan under someone else's name. But the worst part came when I started getting calls from family members. Somehow, Adam had told them his version of the story, one where he was the victim, and I was overreacting by making it a big deal. "You're really going to report your own brother to the police?" one relative asked, their tone dripping with judgment. I couldn't believe it. Instead of taking responsibility, Adam was trying to spin the narrative to save face. And now I was the bad guy for standing up for myself. As Adam's version of the story spread, the tension in the family grew. Some relatives sided with me, understanding the gravity of what he'd done, but others accused me of being too harsh. "He's your brother," they said. "Family should stick together." The guilt tripping was relentless. My aunt called me one evening saying, "You know Adam's going through a tough time. Can't you just forgive him and work this out privately?" I couldn't hold back anymore. "He didn't just make a mistake," I snapped. "He stole my identity and left me to clean up his mess. This isn't about forgiveness, it's about accountability." But not everyone saw it that way. At a family gathering a few days later, things came to a head. I was trying to keep a low profile, but Adam walked in like nothing had happened, laughing and joking with our cousins. I couldn't believe it. He acted like he wasn't the reason my life was in chaos. When he finally approached me, I braced myself for another round of apologies and excuses. Instead, he said, "Can we talk?" Privately. I followed him into another room, crossing my arms as I waited for him to speak. "Look," he started, avoiding my gaze. "I'm sorry for everything, but do you really need to take this so far? It's not like I was trying to hurt you." I felt my blood boil again. "You took out a loan in my name, Adam. How can you stand there and act like it's not a big deal?" "I didn't think it would go this far," he muttered. "I thought I could pay it off before anyone noticed." "And what happens if you couldn't?" I asked, my voice rising. "You'd let me take the fall?" Adam didn't answer, and his silence said it all. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't keep letting Adam's actions dictate my life. He clearly wasn't ready to take responsibility, and I wasn't about to let him drag me down any further. It was time to set some firm boundaries. The next day, I sat down with my lawyer to explore my options. Filing a formal complaint was a necessary step to clear my name, but it also meant Adam could face serious consequences. The thought of involving law enforcement against my own brother was gut-wrenching, but what choice did I have? Meanwhile, Adam's texts and calls kept coming. He begged me not to escalate things. "I'll pay it back," he promised. "I just need more time." But time wasn't something I could afford. The loan company wasn't going to wait for him to get his act together, and neither was my credit score. I texted him back one last time. "Adam, I've done everything I can to give you a chance to fix this, but you've left me no choice. I'm filing the complaint, and you're going to have to deal with the consequences. I hope one day you'll understand why this had to happen." His response was a mix of anger and desperation. "You're really going to ruin my life over this? We're supposed to be family." I didn't reply. I knew anything I said would just fuel the argument, and I was done trying to reason with him. My focus was on protecting myself and moving forward. Filing the complaint was one of the hardest things I'd ever done, but it was also the only way to clear my name. Once the paperwork was submitted, everything moved quickly. The loan company froze the account while they investigated, and law enforcement got involved to verify the identity theft. A few days later, Adam called me again, his voice filled with panic. "I got a visit from the cops today," he said. "They're asking questions about the loan." "That's what happens when you commit fraud, Adam," I said, my tone icy. "I warned you this would happen." "I'm going to lose everything," he said, his voice breaking. "My job, my apartment, everything. Can't you just tell them it was a misunderstanding?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "It wasn't a misunderstanding. You knew exactly what you were doing when you took that loan in my name. I've already paid the price for your mistake, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." He begged me to reconsider, but I held firm. This wasn't about revenge. It was about protecting myself and making sure something like this never happened again. In the weeks that followed, Adam's world began to unravel. The investigation confirmed that he had forged my signature, and he was charged with fraud. The case didn't go to trial, but he was forced to pay restitution and complete community service. It wasn't the life-ruining punishment he feared, but it was enough to send a clear message. With the legal situation resolved, I could finally breathe again, but the damage to my relationship with Adam and my family was undeniable. Some relatives continued to take his side, insisting I'd overreacted. "You didn't have to get the police involved," one aunt told me. "You could have handled this privately." I was done justifying myself. "He committed fraud," I said firmly. "If I hadn't reported it, I'd still be dealing with his mess. I did what I had to do." Despite their criticism, there were a few family members who supported me. My cousin Emma, for example, reached out to say, "What Adam did was wrong, and you had every right to stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that." Her words meant more than she probably realized. Still, rebuilding trust with my family felt like an uphill battle. As for Adam, he kept his distance for a while, which I honestly preferred. I needed time to process everything that had happened and figure out how, if at all, I wanted to move forward with him. Eventually, he reached out with a sincere apology. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said, "but I'm sorry for everything. I was selfish and stupid, and I hate what I did to you." Hearing those words felt bittersweet. On one hand, it was the accountability I'd been waiting for. On the other, it didn't erase the betrayal. "I appreciate the apology," I told him, "but rebuilding trust is going to take time. You need to show me that you've changed, not just say it." He nodded, and for the first time, I felt like he really understood the gravity of what he'd done. As much as I wanted to believe Adam's apology, I knew action spoke louder than words. I wasn't ready to let him back into my life completely, but I decided to take small steps toward rebuilding our relationship, on my terms. The first step was making it clear that there would be boundaries. "If we're going to move forward," I told him, "there has to be trust. That means no more lies, no more shortcuts, and absolutely no more involving me in your financial issues." He nodded earnestly. "I get it. I'm working on fixing things. I've started budgeting, and I've got a side job to help pay off the restitution. I'm trying my name." I wanted to believe him, but I stayed cautious. For the next few months, we kept our interactions limited to casual conversations and occasional family events. Adam seemed genuine about turning his life around, but I didn't let my guard down. I'd learned the hard way that trust takes time to rebuild. Meanwhile, I worked on repairing the damage to my credit and my peace of mind. I updated my passwords, invested in identity theft protection, and made sure all my financial accounts were secure. It was exhausting, but it gave me a sense of control after everything I'd been through. Gradually, the tension within the family began to ease as well. Some relatives who had initially criticized me started to see the bigger picture. "You were right to stand up for yourself," one cousin admitted during a family dinner. "Adam needed a wake-up call, and it looks like he's finally gotten one." Over time, things began to stabilize. Adam followed through on his promises, sticking to his restitution payments and finding healthier ways to manage his finances. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but I could see he was making a real effort. Slowly, I started to let my guard down, though I never forgot the lesson this experience had taught me. As for me, I focused on rebuilding my own life. My credit score recovered, and I finally felt like I could move on from the chaos Adam had caused. The experience had changed me. It made me more cautious, more aware of how easily trust could be broken, even by someone you love. One evening, Adam came over for dinner, something that hadn't happened in a long time. As we sat at the table, he looked at me and said, "I know I don't say it enough, but thank you for not giving up on me, even after everything." His words caught me off guard. "You're my brother," I said after a moment. "I'm always going to care about you. But what you did, what we went through, it's something I'll never forget. I just hope you've learned from it." "I have," he said, and for the first time, I believed him. This whole experience taught me the importance of boundaries, accountability, and protecting yourself, even when it comes to family. Sometimes the people closest to us make mistakes that force us to make hard choices, but those choices are often necessary for growth. Have you ever faced a tough situation with a family member? How did you handle it? Share your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear how others have navigated challenges like these. And if you found this story relatable or helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stick around for more real-life lessons. Thanks for watching.